Alright, welcome back guys, it's Hurtful Shrimp. Today we're playing Minecraft, not in a serious way, just for some fun. Just to be relaxing and just talk about things instead. I've been trying to record as much as I can. I obviously haven't been putting out videos every day. I'm working on that. Also working on just being more of a character on here than just sitting here and talking and playing games. I mean, I don't know. I want to be more exciting than this. But obviously this is just to chill. But more what I was focusing on tonight, I just want to tell you a story. So, me and my friend were pretty bored. We played Xbox 360 for a long time. That's pretty much all we did. And then I decided, you know what? I want to get a computer just for fun. Nothing more to it than that. Just felt like it. Just wanted to play some games. Wanted to be able to do online schooling, and it kind of required a nice computer. So, with the help of my brother-in-law, I decided to do that. One day I decided I was gonna try YouTube, so I did. Obviously, I'm not very successful yet, and not that I necessarily expect to be. I just felt like doing this for fun. I mean, I'm gonna play games anyway, why not post some videos and see if anyone likes them or think I'm funny. I mean, I haven't been really funny yet, I don't think. I'm really trying to find my place right now. My friend recently as in a few months ago, decided he liked the idea and he's gonna get a computer too. So we decided to tackle this on our own, which ended up being a huge mistake. So we got most of the parts and started putting it together using some YouTube videos and other online resources. We figured out how to put it together, so we did. We just got it. We put every single part in there that we had, and then we turned it on, and it turned on for about half a second and then turned off. We spent a whole night. We were up till, what was it, like 3 or 4 in the morning just trying to get this thing to work. But we couldn't. We didn't know what we were doing wrong. Then the next day he had to go, I don't know what he had to do. He had to go somewhere. So I just sat around. I was at his house and just looked at every single website I could to figure out what was wrong. Now, we're not very experienced in this. I didn't even have any part in building my computer except for I just bought a few parts. He said, hey, buy these. So I did that. So then we get to this point where I finally find a solution. Now, I don't know if any of you guys know anything about computers, but on the motherboard, you got these little gold screws. They're called standoffs, so that the motherboard isn't touching the case. Well, little did I know, you needed those to put your motherboard in there, otherwise it won't work. The connection gets messed up. So we spent almost like 12 hours not knowing why his computer wouldn't turn on. Now I probably sound like an idiot to any of you guys who know who know even a little bit about computers, but we didn't know, so we just left it at that. So then he comes back and I'm like, dude, I figured out what's wrong. And he's like, no way, you're a liar, no way, no. And then I showed him. We were just both in disbelief. We were like, are you fucking kidding me? That's what we messed up? Of all things we could mess up. Finally, we get that working, so now we can move on to the next step. The next step would take a lot longer because we just didn't understand computers still. And we only had one SATA cord. SATA cord. So we tried using it on just the hard drive, and we just had no clue what we were doing. So we just kept trying on the hard drive, and he didn't have a disk drive, an optical drive, whatever it's called. So we took it out of his parents' computer because they hardly used it. It's still in there to this day. But we took it out and fixed that. And we finally, after pretty much the rest of the day, figured out how to make it work. We finally got it to work. And it took forever. We didn't understand. Oh yeah, and then, well, it didn't technically work yet. We got it to the point where it would turn on and boot to BIOS or BIOS, whatever you want to call it. And we didn't know how to install Windows or a different operating system of any sort, so we had Windows and it was on a CD. We pretty much spent the rest of that night, and then I ended up having to go. We didn't know what we were doing wrong. So we eventually figured out that you just have to make it boot from the CD drive or the DVD drive, and we finally got that to work. And then we were just confused because it wouldn't boot up, it wouldn't load anything, and then we were just stupid because we just ended up quitting for a while, and then finally we got it to work. You just have to let it load up. We finally get it working. Like, finally, it's good. Life is good. We can finally play games together from far away. Life was good. We played games for about almost a month or something like that, and then we remembered that we couldn't get it to boot with multiple sticks of RAM. He had 2 sticks of RAM. We only had one in there, and finally that's what got it to work. So we just left it. We just were like, whatever, we can actually play games now. Let's do it. Then come one day, I hear he decides to try putting in the other stick of RAM, and his computer stopped working again. And we're like, well, just take it out. And he took it out, and we do some research, and we're like, well, you either broke your RAM or your motherboard. And he's like, no way. And we figure out that he was static charged. He had static on him because he must not have grounded himself before putting in the other stick of RAM. So his motherboard, we assumed, was fried. It was done. We're no way of salvaging it. So about a month passes, and he didn't really have time to order a new motherboard, but eventually he gets to it. And we get a really good, not really good, but pretty decent motherboard, and we hook it all up again. Try plugging in the processor. Turns out the processor was the wrong size for the processor input thing. Oh, let me backtrack. I forgot about this part. So back when we were first building it, we didn't think he needed a processor fan. We didn't think that was like needed. We thought it would run at least for a little bit on it. Then, so we get it about ready to run, and we're like, okay, let's turn it on for a little bit. And then I was like, well, I think a processor fan is pretty important. We should probably look that up. Turns out, with some processors, they can overheat in as little as 1 minute. They could just pretty much melt and melt your whole computer. Not your whole computer, but like parts around it. So we decided, let's not risk that and save it for another day. Then about a couple weeks pass, and finally get a nice fan, put it in there, and then it gets working. Now fast forward here. So yeah, we put in a processor, try to put in the processor. It's not the right size. We didn't realize that the motherboard we thought the processor he had was the right size for the motherboard he newly ordered. So then he just has an extra motherboard lying around, and he can return it, but he's gonna get like $30. Pretty much he's wasted at least $30. So we decide that he should just return it, get what he can, and we'll order a new motherboard. Then we get a new motherboard, right size, perfect, everything, plugs it in, and we're like, what the heck? It's still not turning on. It wasn't the motherboard, apparently. So we for 3 days, pretty much, we were just in shock. We're like, no way we were wrong. This has to be the motherboard. And so he's just super pissed at this point because it's been almost like 2 or 3 months that he hasn't had a computer now. And I feel a little bad because I'm like, no, the motherboard, it had to have been the motherboard. No, there's something we did wrong here. And so then we start looking up some more things, and we're like, shit, apparently it was the power supply. The motherboard wasn't getting enough power, but it apparently it just looked like it was getting enough power, so we assumed it was the motherboard. So then we're just pissed. I feel super bad because it was kind of my fault for telling him to get a motherboard. And then just recently, we were like, okay, before we do anything else, we're going to plug it in to my computer, this old trusty thing, and we're gonna see if it if it is the power supply. We plug it into everything in mine, and it does the same exact thing, doesn't start up, and I'm like, well shit, you just broke my computer. So I'm frustrated too. I'm like, well crap, what do we do? Then I look a little bit closer and I'm like, dude, are you sure this 4-pin connector isn't supposed to be plugged into the motherboard? And he's like, no, the motherboard manual said that you don't need to, not even that you don't need to, that you have to plug in either that or the 24-pin connector or whatever it is. I'm like, well, let's just try for shits and giggles to plug it in. So we plug it in, and it starts. So we were on the verge of ordering a whole new power supply for no reason, assuming that he had 3 perfectly working motherboards that he could only return 1 or 2 of them. And then we figure out, nope, our initial thoughts were right. The motherboard was fucked up, and the power supply is completely fine. We just didn't plug it in right. So now, where we're at is he's got a working computer, and hopefully he'll be able to return that motherboard, and he'll only have lost about $150 because the stupid motherboard broke right away. So lesson of the day is just do more research before you do things. Honestly, gosh, because I felt so bad. I thought I messed up and made him waste $100. I was ready to buy him a new whatever he needed because it was kind of my fault. I really encouraged it. Anyway, thank you guys for watching and listening to my story. You guys all have a good night. Thank you.